All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go over a few problems that you can expect on the Algebra 1 midterm. So what I would like to see happen is that you take notes and use it as a study guide. You are going to turn in these notes Wednesday morning to your teacher. So let's go ahead and begin here. First question. All right. I'll read it to you while you copy it down. The cost to make X number of mandolins can be represented by a function C of X. If it costs $498 to make 4 mandolins, write a function that is true. All right, now, I'm not paused, but I'm going to explain some things as you're copying this down, just to kind of get by you a few minutes. This problem looks confusing, but this is one of those problems that you should get without any lecture, any kind of instruction on what's going on. Okay, so all right, so there might be some consecutive ites here and there in this video. Let's see how we're supposed to write this function out. Okay, we know that we're making 4 mandolins and it costs $498. Well, what would a function look like if we wrote it out to make it true? Let's check out the answer here. Okay, so my answer, I know X equals 4 because we made 4 mandolins, and we know the cost is $398. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write C of X here. C represents cost, and that was $498. Well, we're almost there. Believe it or not, we're almost to our answer. The only thing you have to add to this to get your final answer, I'm going to write it in purpla. Yeah, this is going to be on YouTube, and I said purpla. We're going to plug in 4 right here, and for X. That's it. Okay? That is literally the function that makes it true. And we say that as C of 4 equals $498. So X is like an input value. And you just set your cost equal to C of X, and then you're going to plug in how many how many mandolins make it cost that amount, okay, to make. Okay, I'm not an English teacher, so I'm going to do my best. All right, so that is number 1. You can expect to see one just like it on the test. And the test is mostly multiple choice. You should be pretty good. All right, number 2. Okay. Number 2, you will be expected to be able to graph the inequality. It is a multiple choice, so you can expect to see 4 different graphs. And what I would do is I'd work this out algebraically. All right? What I mean by that, let's find certain values. Okay? I don't know if I did this. I think I did. I remember doing this part in class. What I'm going to do is I'm going to separate it out. I'm going to bring 2 of X down here. I'm going to bring the inequality symbol and 6 right here. I'm going to solve 2 simple linear inequalities. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing over here on the right side. Bring down negative 3y and bring down the inequality and 6. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve for each individual variable. I'm going to find an x, and I'm going to find a y. I'm going to put a star by this guy right here. That is so important. Okay, that's going to tell us everything about this line. But let's get x out of the way here. Let's box it, line it. Do the opposite. Be fair. Cancel out. X, well, is 3 in this case. Now, I'm not worried about the inequality symbol in x. Okay? It's just there hanging out. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go to my graph. I'm going to draw a simple cheesy graph. Okay? So, draw you a simple cheesy graph. And I'm going to label x-axis and y-axis. Okay? Now, I found my x was 3. If I go backwards, ooh, I went too far backward. Okay, it'll change here. X is 3. I'm going to plot 3 on the x. This is an easy way of graphing linear inequalities. Okay, now let's find y. Okay, my iPad's going a little bit crazy, so bear with me. Now, let's go solve for y. Y is very important because it's going to determine what's going on with this line. Well, let me start off with this. Is it dotted or solid? Okay, if you see a line underneath the inequality symbol, this is solid. So we're going to be looking to make a solid line. Now I'm going to solve for y. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to divide both sides by -3. Something happens when you divide by a negative. Okay, it flips this sign. When you divide by a negative, this is just on y. I'm not worried about x. On y, when we divide by that negative, it flipped our sign, and we have 6 divided by -3, which is -2. Now I can determine with my inequality, is it shaded above or below? Now, if it's facing y like it is right now, we're going to shade above. Okay, you want to solve for y first before you determine this little thing right here. Okay, so we need a solid line, we got to shade above. But the first thing I want to do is let's plot on the y-axis -2. Okay, I'm going to plot -2 there. So I'm going along the y-axis and go down to -2. Now I got my 2 points. Now I'm at the fun part. Okay, and I'm so excited, so much fun. Okay, I'm going to draw a solid line through those 2 points. I'm trying to draw a straight line here. And since I need to shade above, I'm going to go above the roof. This is above the roof. So if I shade, you're looking for that region. That's going to help you determine which multiple choice answer is correct. If you know those 2 things, shade above or below, is it dotted or solid, that right there is going to mean everything in picking the correct answer. Okay, my highlighter is really full of life today. Alright. Alright, so had a little malfunction here. Let me go to my slide here. Alright, back in business. Number 3. Let's continue on and get going. Most of what is going to look familiar is stuff that we've done here in the past month. The factoring, the finding the zeros. Okay? I'm going to be going over several of these problems with you right now in this video. Okay? Now there's a question that's going to say, name the plotted points that represent the zeros of the function, and it'll give you a function. Now, a plotted point, let me highlight this. I got it listed right here, okay? It's looking for points. If you're 0, your y-coordinate is 0. Let that help you decide, because this is going to be one of those problems where you got to select all that apply. You need to make sure you select all that apply. You're picking the ones where the y coordinate is 0. Okay, and I'm going to give you a hint here. That's one hint. Select all that apply. I'm going to tell you that's the type of question you're going to see. The next type of thing I would look at in this particular problem, okay, in pink I have a quadratic, something that we can factor underlined. And then over here, I have another little set of parentheses. That's just a simple little guy to solve. In this particular problem, you're going to look for 3 answers. Okay? It's like leading the horse to the water. All you got to do is drink. You're looking for 3 answers in this type of question. Okay? And I'm going to go through what I would do first. Okay? And I'm going to start with this x minus 3. We're finding zeros, the plotted point version of these zeros. So I'm going to start with x minus 3 here in this function. I'm going to set it equal to 0. Let's go ahead and solve that. I'm going to do the opposite. Add 3 to both sides. Box it, line it if you want to. I'm not really going to worry about. I get x equals 3. You're looking for the plotted point version. That is this. 3, 0. Remember, y 0. So that is one of my answers. I'll put a box around it. I'm the man in the box. Okay, enough Alice in Chains there. So that's one of my answers. Now you're going to have to be a little bit savvy and remember this. Let's go back to this other part. I only got 1 out of 3 of my answers. I got 1 point. There's 2 more points that you need to find. And it's going to stem from, I'm going to underline in pink again, this x squared plus 3x minus 40. Now if you recall what I've taught you, okay, x squared plus 3x minus 40. What do we want to do? We want to set that equal to 0. And what do we want in front of the x squared? My famous number 1. Okay, if those 2 things, and honestly, the test that you're going to see Wednesday, the test on Wednesday, the quadratic equations are the easier versions that we've done. Okay, most of the time it'll be set equal to 0, and you're looking for this being a 1. If that's the case, let's go ahead and write 2 sets of parentheses. This is where we're going to get our other 2 answers. Okay? I'm going to put an x here and an x here because that's 1 in front of x squared. Now, I don't know what we want to call this thing. I'm going to write it in orange, but we're going to do that thing. We got to think of 2 numbers that multiply to give me negative 40. And then we want those numbers. We don't have to worry about outside plus inside in this one because we got 1 in front of x squared. We want these 2 numbers to add to be 3. Now, instead of you trying to sit there and set and guess, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you the numbers. 8 times negative 5 is negative 40. 8 plus negative 5 is positive 3. So I found my two numbers that I want to use that work. Okay, the factors. So I'm going to write plus 8 here and minus 5 here. Now what we need to do is set x plus 8 equal to 0. Let's go ahead and solve that real quick. I'm going to do the opposite, be fair, cancel out. I got x equals negative 8. So my plotted point version of my 0 is, I'll write it over here, negative 8, comma 0, y is 0. I'll put a box around it too so it's not lonely. Okay, there's my second answer. Only got one more. I'm almost there. I love to be a kid and watch one of my videos. I'd laugh at myself so bad. Alright, so now let's do x minus 5. I already took care of this guy. Let's take care of this one. This will find my third and final answer. I told you there's going to be 3. And I wouldn't lie. Well, about this, anyway. So let's do opposite, be fair, cancel out. X equals 5. Let's write the plotted point version of that. 5, comma, 0. And there's my 3 answers. Those are my 3 plotted points for my zeros of that function. Okay? A little bit to take in there, I know. Alright, so we're about 17 minutes into this video. Let's continue and get her done. Alright. Question 4. We're like Bon Jovi, we're halfway there. The graph of the equation y equals 3x squared minus 12x minus 36. I'm just going to read it. Don't get all frustrated yet. Has zeros at x equals a and x equals b, where a is smaller than b. Now, I kind of boxed that statement in there. Okay? I boxed that statement in there. All that's saying is a is smaller than b. Now, they didn't say anything about a plotted point version of this. The graph, here's something that we haven't done, but it's really simple. I can't wait to show you. It's really that simple. The graph has a minimum at c, negative 48. And I'm just trying to give you a hint on how to find c. What are the values of a, b, and c? Now, hopefully you're writing this down. I'm going to keep talking. A and B are the zeros. I'm going to concentrate on that part first because we've done this kind of problem. Just it hadn't been worded this way before. That's why I'm shooting this video. That way you know how to do this problem. It's nothing that you haven't done before. Okay? And probably by the time you get done with this problem, by the time we get done with this problem, you're going to be like, wow, really? Hopefully, that's your reaction. So, we will find A and B. AB, we're going to find AB. This video is so chopped up where I hit pause and stuff, it's going to be funny. Let's find AB. We got to look at this part, though. 3x squared minus 12x minus 36. So let me write this function down. I'm not going to worry about y because we're trying to find zeros. Okay, the only important part is this 3x squared minus 12x minus 36. That's the important part of this problem. I keep going back and forth because I have to make sure I wrote down the correct problem. Okay, so with this, I'm going to use what I've taught you. I'm going to set it equal to 0. That's the first thing. We're finding zeros. It only makes sense to set it equal to 0. Right? Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the number in front of x squared. It is not 1. Okay? Don't be alarmed on this part. Okay? It is not 1. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to check to see if this number divides my other two numbers, the 12 and the 36. Well, 3 divides 12 evenly. If you punch it on a calculator, it'll give you 4. And 36 divided by 3 is 12. If that happens, I can factor out 3. So let's take 3 out. Now, I can't do the 2 parentheses yet. I can only stay with the 1 for right now. Not until that number in front of x squared is 1. Now, watch what happens here. 3 divided by 3. Okay, I'm talking about this 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. That's a good thing right there to happen. I'm going to underline that 1. Okay, I reached my goal with this. Okay. Then minus 12 divided by 3 is 4x. I hate watching YouTube videos and people go, it's kind of tacky. Minus 36 divided by 3, which is 12. I told you that part earlier. Okay? Now, since I have 1 in front of x squared, and you can picture me shooting this video at home because I'm actually doing hand gestures and everything else. Since this is 1 now, I can do that thing. Set up 2 parentheses now. We're going to try to find A and B. I'm just trying to find zeros right now and get this over with. Since that's 1, write x here, x here. Now, we got to do that thing of 2 numbers that multiply to give me negative 12. And they got to add to give me negative 4. I'm not going to draw it up on the video. I'm just going to tell you that negative 6 and positive 2. Negative 6 times positive 2 is negative 12. Negative 6 plus 2 is negative 4. Okay? I did that thing in my head. Now, let's solve each one of these parentheses. Set them equal to 0. Now, minus 6 equals 0. Let's do the opposite here and go ahead and get that 0 because this is going to be one of my answers. X equals 6. Let's do this right here. X plus 2 equals 0. Minus 2 to both sides. X equals negative 2. Now, there was something said in that question about the zeros. If you recall back, I'm going to write this in green. If you recall back, it said A is smaller than B. Okay? If A is smaller than B, well, which one's smaller, 6 or negative 2? Well, negative 2 is smaller. So I'm going to label negative 2 as A. And I'm going to label 6 as B. Okay? So there you have it. Odds are, when you're working this problem out and you find the zeros first, that's going to give you the answer. Now, if you have 2 answer choices, because this whole test is multiple choice, if you got 2 answer choices that have A is negative 2 and B is 6, then you have to find C. Now, I'm going to find C right here. And it's so funny how simple it is to find C. To find C, I'm going to write that down here. To find C, here's what you do. You take A plus B and divide that by 2. This is the part in that problem I said, this is really simple. Okay? Well, that's basically negative 2 plus 6 divided by 2, which is equal to 4 divided by 2, which is equal to 2. Well, that's my C right there. And I'm done with that problem. So my values of A, B, and C for this function are negative 2, 6, and 2 respectively. Okay? Alright, let's go to the next question. Some of these questions are going to be really obviously simple. Okay? Let's check out number 5. We've seen this time and time again. Time after time. Time after time. Okay, I'm done. This is on YouTube and it's recording right now, and I'm so embarrassed. Alright, so you've seen this question time and time again. I'm not going to sing it. Let A represent a non-zero rational number and B be an irrational number. Now there's 2 parts to this question. I'm going to go over the first part with you. Which could represent a rational number? A rational number. Okay? Rational means you can count it. Okay? Let's count that rational number. Well, we got to find A and B. And I'm going to tell you which ones I would define them as. If A is a non-zero, so you can't use 0, rational number, I'm going to start off with the first number I can count. 1. Let A be 1. If you can count it, it's rational. Now, irrational is one of those decimals that never repeats and never stops. It's like pi, 3.14444, I don't know if it's 144, it's 3.14159, blah, 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 and it keeps going on forever and ever. Okay? I would use something easier than that. Use square root of 2. Okay? Use the square root of 2. I'm telling you this because then you can plug into the answer choices. We're trying to find one that counts. Which expression? If I plug in into this expression, B, I got negative square root of 2. Now I'm going to do my impression of Family Feud. You can't count negative square root of 2. Ain't going to happen. Let's try answer B. 1 plus the square root of 2. If you punch that in on the calculator, it's going to be a really not very so pretty number. That ain't rational. Isn't rational. Sorry, Miss Wessel. People. Okay. Part C. Well, 1 times the square root of 2. 1 times square root of 2 is just, well, square root of 2. Square root of 2, I can't count. I don't count. 1, 2, square root of 2. Okay? And this is what people don't realize. How's B squared rational? I'm going to tell you the answer is D in this case. But why is it? Well, if I plug in the square root of 2 and I square that number, think about opposite. Opposite of square root is squared. So if I take square root of 2 times square root of 2, it is what it is. It's just 2. I can count 2. I can count to 2. So that's what makes it rational. Okay? Very simple question. Very simple question. And we got a couple of them that are very, very simple. Alright, so time is of the essence. Let's keep going forward here. I meant to put the answer there, but okay. Here's the part 2 of this question. If one zero is irrational, what is true about the other zero? This is the one that's almost as bad as the first question, okay, that we went over in this video. Guys, I've said time and time again, if one zero is blue, the other one's blue. If one zero is red, the other one is red. Whatever one zero is, the other zero is the exact same thing. So if one zero is irrational, what is true about the other one? The other zero is irrational. It's not a trick question. Think about all the zeros we've found. In the previous problem, one of the zeros was 6. Well, 6 is a counting number. It's rational. -2. Okay, it's a negative version of a counting number. It's an integer. It's rational. Now, if I have square root of 2 as a 0, that's irrational. Odds are the other 0 is going to be something very not pretty either. Okay? That's one of those questions that should just be, I got it. All right. All right, moving right along. What are the zeros defined by 3x squared minus 33x minus 180? Okay. As you're copying this down, I'm going to go ahead and get it started. I'm going to do what I've been doing since, for the past month and a half now. I'm going to do set it equal to 0. I'm finding 0, so it makes sense to set it equal to 0. Okay? It makes sense to set it equal to 0. But, and there's one right here. This is not 1. Okay? So we need to probably deal with that. Okay? The number in front of x squared is not 1. It's 3. What am I going to try to do? And all these problems on the test are going to be very similar to this. It's going to work out the exact same way because, well, they made sure that the first number divides these two numbers here. It's going to be obvious. Okay? And since 3 divides 33 evenly, 11 times, if you will, and 180 is divisible by 3, and that goes into it 60 times, okay, I can factor 3 out. Now, I can't get 2 sets of parentheses yet, which is okay, but I can fix this. 3 divided by 3 is 1x squared. That's what I want. I want to see 1 right there. Minus 11x, I did 33 divided by 3. It's just factoring it out, taking what you can. You're Billy the Kid. And minus 180 divided by 3, which is 60. Now that I have 1, I can set 2 parentheses. Once you get 1 in front of x squared, set 2 sets of parentheses. That makes this problem really easy. Because I can put x here and x here. Now, I'm going to go over to the side here and do that thing. I need 2 numbers that multiply to give me -60. And I need those same 2 numbers. I don't have to worry about outside plus inside. Have to equal -11. Now, instead of letting you try to sit there and guess, I'm going to go ahead and do this for you. -15 times 4 is -60. -15 plus 4 is negative 11. So I'm going to plug in negative 15 and positive 4 here. Now, it don't want the plotted point version of this. Okay? Alright, so I'm going to have to fix this part in my video for some odd reason. Now, all that you got to do now is set each one of those equal to 0. You got to. You don't have to have the plotted point version of this. Okay? You just need to solve for each one. There's going to be 2 answers on this question, and we're finding them right now. So one of them is, we got to do the opposite, be fair, cancel out. One of them is x equals 15. I'm going to look for 15 as one of my answers. Minus 4 to both sides, do the opposite, be fair, cancel out. X equals negative 4. There's another one of my answers, and I'll be done. Okay? It'll say select all that apply. In this question here, you only need to find 2. Okay? You only need to find 2 questions. Or 2 answers. Blech, sorry. Alright. Number 7. Now, a ball is thrown upward into the air. Good night. Now, this is going to take longer to probably copy down than it is to actually give you the answer to the question. Because the answer to the question is really simple. Okay? A ball is thrown upward into the air. The expression, negative 16 t squared plus 40t plus 3, represents the height. This sounds like a Mr. Ralston question. Represents the height of the ball above ground t seconds after being thrown. Now, you're going to read this question and be like, oh my goodness. But it's really not hard. Because all it's asking is, what is the meaning of 3 in the expression? Now I'm going to draw that picture out and show you. Alright, so I'm going to draw this picture here of, here's the ground, and let's say the ball is right here, and it's going to be thrown up into the air. I'm going to draw some dashed lines, and you'll have this picture. Now, this is an application problem of what the kinds of problems we've been solving. Now, check this out. This distance from here to here, okay, the ball's not being thrown from the ground. It's being thrown somewhere at a certain point above ground. Okay? I mean, quarterbacks don't throw the ball from the ground. They're throwing it from up here. That ball is already at a certain height. Now, this only makes sense that the ball is 3 feet above the ground. Okay? So what I'm saying is, in that expression, that 3, that number on the end, represents the height of the ball above ground before it's thrown. Okay? The ball is thrown from a height of 3 feet. That's it. That's your answer. Okay? There was no math to that. The number on the end, whatever number, let me go back here real quick. The number that does not have a letter beside it, okay? It's going to show up on the video. The number that's by itself, no variable attached to it. That's a starting point. That's where it's being thrown from, how far above ground it is. Okay? And that's it for that question. You are going to make a statement or choose a statement that is very similar to that statement right there for that question. Okay? All right. Let's go to the last one. All right. Last but not least, I'm going to end on a good note here. B flat's my favorite note to hit on guitar. It's just one of them sinister. I don't know why I'm giving you the rock horns, because you can't see it on the video. Consider the function f of x equals 2x squared plus 6x minus 8. Okay? What is the factored form of f of x? Well, guys, like I said, we're ending on a good note. Let's do this. 2x squared plus 6x minus 8. Set that equal to 0. Let's go back to what we've been doing. We're setting it equal to 0. You're going to see a question that asks, what is the factored form of this? You need to be able to do this. What I don't see is this is not 1, so I'm going to have to make it 1. Like I said, these aren't going to be very hard to solve. Alright? What I do need to check to see is, does 2 divide 6 and 8 evenly? Well, the answer is yes. So I'm going to factor 2 out. Now, 2 is going to be part of this answer. I can only have one set of parentheses so far. Now I'm going to divide. 2 divided by 2 is 1x squared. Plus 6 divided by 2 is 3x. Minus 8 divided by 2 is 4. Now I got to go over to the side here. Now that this is 1, I'm going to do that thing. Two numbers that multiply to give me negative 4. And I got to add to give me 3. Well, 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. 4 plus negative 1 is positive 3. So my final answer, I'm going to write this in orange, is going to be 2 parentheses. I'm going to set 2 parentheses up. The 0 really does not matter at this point. X here, plus 4 minus 1. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my final answer. I said, I hope this helps you out. I expect you to have these notes turned in to me Wednesday morning before you take the exam. Okay? If you don't have the notes completed or finished, or you don't have notes to hand in to me, you'll probably have some consequences and repercussions. And you will probably have to sit and rewatch this video before taking the exam. Alright? Hopefully this in-class video kind of gives you the upper hand for Wednesday. Alright? I'll see you guys later.